Okay, listen, are you an instructional designer or a trainer who teaches people or has to design learning, e-learning, for people who sell, people who go to customers and exchange money for services? Listen, guys, listen, I don't want to see any more of this e-learning where we put a spec sheet up online and people have to memorize spec sheet stuff. What makes a great salesperson? It's not facts. It's part of it, but that's like 5% of it. The biggest part is actually somebody going to a customer, relating to them, finding out what their problem is, offering them a solution with your product, right? Perfect setup for scenarios. So at the end of this video, what you're going to walk away with is just this awesome tip on how to make that scenario thing happen in your e-learning and make it one less idea more difficult for you to apply. All right? That was weird. Anyways, okay, so to my board now, which, as you will see, I have lots of neat little cartoons for you today. Anyways, okay, so there's a reason why people like you and I resist scenarios. One, we've had a bad experience with them, and two, expectations aren't being managed properly. So the bad experience, I'm not going to get into it too much because that's not the focus of the video here, but basically it's just like, you tried scenarios and the goals weren't clear. There was 15 people reviewing it and giving you feedback, and it was overwhelming, and everybody wanted to make it super vanilla, so in the end it ended up sounding like something the legal department put together anyways. Or just one of the worst things is putting up way too much info up front, so it became a case study instead of being a scenario, and nobody ever would want to work through that. So the other part is expectations, because most of us work with subject matter experts, and sometimes people think scenarios are a lot of work, and well, they are, but it can be really fun. That's why we're here. So something that you put a lot of good effort into turns into a scenario can last a long time. You can reuse it over and over. Also, I think the other thing is that the expectation is that you can take PowerPoint slides and turn them into scenarios for people. And that also is a difficult thing to manage, because people are coming into your project with expectations. So how do you overcome some of these things? Well, really what we're trying to do is create scenarios that make people super awesome at what they do. So the goal, what I'm assuming here is that you've done some analysis, and in that process you've decided that somebody practicing how to sell something or how to follow a process with another human being and making decisions and seeing the consequences of those decisions is really going to be a helpful activity for your learners. So now that you've decided that, now you're working with a SME, and then it's still a very very intense process, and especially for SMEs, a lot of them have never designed scenarios before. So yeah, you're getting over that hurdle, but it's fun. It really is a good scenario. Anyways, okay, so the complicated part is where when I said managing expectations, people come in and you really have to unpack where their scenario experience is. So have they already been online and looked at a bunch of stuff, and now they're coming to you and going, hey, I want to make something like this, and you never actually had that conversation, and now you're trying to manage their expectations about what you're going to build together and if it's useful, right, to your audiences? Or they've never seen a scenario, and they, now what's happening is you said, well, we're going to do something like this, and they're like, wow, that's so much more than what I anticipated, and I have all this other job to do, and now I have this scenario stuff. So it's a challenge. But, and we'll talk about that in other videos. But the one thing that I think is a key point here is when, and this happens all the time. Just search for it online. I got a PowerPoint, now I have to turn it into a scenario. And there's this disconnect between the fact that to make a good scenario, you need somebody who's got a lot of experience, because they add that nuance, depth, and these little details that make a scenario good. And what makes scenarios good is details that would probably make somebody make a bad decision, or consequences that you can't even think of. So this is my little tip to you. Next time you get a PowerPoint and somebody says, make a scenario out of this, and the subject matter expert just hands it to you or sends it to you, and you're like, go for it, do it, build something awesome, right? I want you to actually build something for them. Build something that you're like, okay, you gave me this PowerPoint, I'm going to put something like together, the world's crappiest scenario. And here's the reason why you want to do this. And I know it's hard because you're starting a project, you want to look like a rock star, you want to look like, you know, you can do stuff, but you got to let that ego down, especially at the beginning, because it does two things. You send them that terrible scenario that you put together from these random bullet points, and they're going to be like, yeah, we really need the subject matter expert to be involved on this project because they are a subject matter expert, and this person obviously is not. Number two, you've opened the door to feedback, and you've let yourself, you know, let your guard down, let your ego down, and you've told the SME, here it is, tell me, I have thick skin. And because you've created that rapport and you've made it obvious to them that you're okay getting that feedback, that just sets it up for you to have a really good dialogue with this person. They're going to be very honest with you, and that takes time. You build that over time. But now they know that it's okay for them to tell you when something's wrong. And because at the very beginning you're giving them something that's you know it's totally off, you're almost over-exaggerating how bad it is, they can't help themselves but give you that feedback because it's so bad. And then you can just keep on going with that. And that's just a beautiful way to get that started. And it works for me. So listen, I gave you a tip. I know you have more. Let's put it in the comments. Give me your ideas, your suggestions, any other objections you have, your horror stories. I want to hear it. But also, you know what I want to hear? Success stories. I want to hear how things worked out and how everybody else should be using this one awesome tip that I didn't include here. So, I'll see you next time.